Hello everyone, thank you for joining today. This video is going to cover tillage and sod production and how it is unique from other cropping systems. The main topics I will be covering today are what implements are used in the tillage system, why is tillage so important for sod production, what are some challenges with tillage, and what improvements can be made in the future. So the first tillage implement that is used in sod production is the rototiller. This implement is used primarily around headlands and on areas of unharvested sod. The reason for using the rototiller on the headland is to help break down thick residue, which would typically get caught up in other implements, and to prevent dragging foreign grass and weeds from the headland into the field. By passing over these areas first, the rest of the tillage process becomes much easier with less interruptions. Another benefit of using the rototiller is that it is small and can be easily used up close to trees, fences, and other objects which may be difficult to navigate using much larger implements. For those who may not understand what unharvested sod is, here's an image showing an area where the sod was not suitable for harvest and is therefore left in the field. These areas are typically sprayed with glyphosate prior to rototilling to facilitate breakdown. This is important as large pieces of turf residue will take much longer to decompose in the soil. The next implement used in the tillage system is a disc. This process is performed 3 times, each time in an offsetting direction. The disc is set to a depth of about 4 to 5 inches, as the goal of this implement is to loosen the top layer and shatter large clumps of soil. The disc is the main implement used in the system to break down previous crop residue, particularly corn stalks, which get chopped into small pieces to encourage decomposition and prevent interference while seeding. The next implement used is the chisel plow. The chisel plow is used 2 times in offsetting directions. The chisel plow is used for what is called deep tillage. This means that the implement may reach depths of up to around 16 inches. While this may sound excessive, it is very important to reach significant depths in order to break up the hard pan created by high rates of equipment and vehicle traffic. The purpose of the chisel plow is not to prepare the seed bed, but rather the main goal is to alleviate deep compaction, which allows for drainage and deep root growth. The final implement used in the tillage system is the cultivator. It is performed a total of 5 times and is used to incorporate granular fertilizer and to create the final seed bed. The cultivator makes 3 passes before the fertilizer is applied, and then 2 more passes afterwards to incorporate the product. The implement uses both rolling baskets and finger harrows to finalize the seedbed and complete the tillage process. Creating the seedbed is an incredibly important process in sod production. Unlike other crops, which can be planted in nearly any soil condition, grass seed is broadcasted and lightly packed to increase soil-to-seed contact. In the photo pictured below, you can see the back roller on a grass seeder. This system relies on the soil having an incredibly fine consistency, as seeding can be easily interrupted by any large chunks of soil. This is why an excessive amount of tillage is essential in creating this type of seedbed. Just for comparison, here's an image of both seeded and unseeded ground. On the right, the unseeded ground still has small ridges, although the soil is nicely broken down into a fine consistency. On the left, however, you can see that the seeded ground is gently packed and as flat and uniform as possible. So now that we've been through all the different steps included in the tillage process, you can begin to add up the number of passes and get a grasp of the true extent of tillage being performed. Based on 500 acres seeded annually, each acre is covered 10 times, give or take a pass depending on the year. This equates to 5,000 acres of tillage, and at $20 per acre, the annual cost of tillage can be upwards of $100,000. Comparing to other cropping systems, tillage and sod production is a significant financial obligation. In order to justify the costs, you first need to understand why tillage is so important in sod production. Unlike other crops, there is no choice but to perform excessive tillage. In most crops, creating a seed bed is focused on improving growth, although in sod production, a uniform seedbed is important as it allows for improved harvestability. While grass seed can still easily grow on uneven soil, seeding into rough conditions creates problems during harvest. A more uniform seedbed reduces the amount of unnecessary topsoil loss during harvest and can prevent the need for excessive rolling. Let me explain. So here is an illustration showing the cross-section of topsoil with sod. In this image, the red line represents the harvester blade. This blade slides parallel with the surface and removes everything above it, which can include the sod, roots, and any topsoil that is above the blade. So in this image, you can see that the topsoil is not uniform. This means that when the blade passes by, it will be removing a large amount of topsoil in order to harvest the sod. This is called unnecessary topsoil loss. Comparing that to this image where the topsoil is in fact uniform, you can see how much less topsoil there is above the blade. This means that there will be considerably less topsoil being removed, which is important in retaining the integrity of the field's soil. When the topsoil is not completely uniform, it must first be rolled in order to maintain harvestability and prevent excessive topsoil loss. Its heavy weight of 6,000 pounds physically compacts the soil so that it is uniform. While relying on rolling could reduce the need for such excessive tillage, this process is not something the grower wants to perform often. This is because the roller is deeply compacting the soil below, creating more issues in the following season. Overall, the goal of this is to implement tillage properly, so that there is less need for a roller and less dependence for even more excessive tillage in future years. Now that you understand the process of tillage and sod production, you can now consider what challenges make the tillage process more difficult. The first challenge is the incredibly high rate of compaction that is inherent in sod production. For every acre of sod, there are 3 fully loaded tractor trailers that must enter the field in order to load and deliver the product. This only becomes worse in wet conditions, when the trucks must enter the field during a state in which the soil is more easily compacted. Another factor comes from rolling the field. While this process can be reduced considerably with other management practices, it still occurs and leads to additional compaction. The last source of compaction is the high rate of other equipment traffic. This includes forklifts, harvesters, and pickup trucks. Another challenge with tillage is the cost. At a cost of $20 per acre every time the tractor makes a pass, the costs quickly add up considering each acre is covered 10 times. Additionally, in order to cover all acreage in a timely manner, there is a requirement for multiple tractors to be operating at a given time. This increases both equipment and maintenance costs. While there are many challenges associated with tillage and sod production, there are also a wide range of improvements that can be made in the future to mitigate these challenges. One of the main areas of focus is reducing overall compaction. Doing so would ultimately reduce the need for such excessive tillage. This can be done using dedicated loading areas for trucks. This concept allows for only certain areas to be compacted by the tractor trailers, allowing for considerably less compaction in majority of the field. Another improvement could be limiting equipment traffic in wet soil conditions. When conditions are wet, the soil is more easily compacted, leading to further issues. This can be challenging as the business wants to continue operation even when wet, although limiting unnecessary travel would help mitigate the problem. Another improvement is equipping all machinery with either a track system or flotation-style turf tires. Both are able to reduce compaction considerably and help prevent the need for excessive tillage. So in summary, we have discussed all elements of the tillage system in sod production. With that being said, there are a few key concepts that are important to note. Tillage is an essential process which must be performed in a sod production system. A wide range of implements are used to achieve desired soil conditions. Many of the tillage challenges faced by growers are unavoidable due to the nature of production, and there are certain changes that can be made in order to mitigate these challenges. In conclusion, I appreciate you all taking the time to learn about tillage and sod production. It is definitely a topic that will be unfamiliar to most. although I hope you enjoyed the process of learning about this unique system in agriculture. Thank you.